an exclusive K-File investigation revealing the fierce backlash within the GOP against Tucker Carlson for his interview with controversial white nationalist and Holocaust denier Nick Fuentes. So now this controversy is rocking one of America's most influential conservative groups, the Heritage Foundation, which helped create Project 2025. Kevin Roberts is the president of Heritage, and he is in damage control. I mean, initially he defended Carlson's interview. It was an interview that drew bipartisan outrage over comments like this.
And I think that neoconservatism, where does it arise from? It arises from Jewish leftists who were mugged by reality when they saw the surprise attack in the Yom Kippur War.
Yeah, well, that's a lot of it for sure. But then, like, how do you explain Mike Huckabee, Ted Cruz, and there are a lot like that, John Bolton. I mean, I've known them all, George W. Bush, like Karl Rove. I mean, all people I know personally who I've seen like be seized by this brain virus, and they're not Jewish.
What you're saying about putting aside the tribal interest for the corporate interest,
Yes.
That's absolutely the case. The main challenge to that, a big challenge to that, is organized Jewry in America.
So Roberts now says that he was wrong to defend Carlson over that interview, but maybe it is too late. I mean, Republican after Republican are now calling out both Carlson and Heritage, including Republican Congressman Randy Fine, who is Jewish.
And when widely respected conservative thought leaders like Tucker Carlson go insane, because that's what he has become, people start to believe it. We ended our relationship with Heritage. We're working with many Jewish groups that have ended their relationship with Heritage. And really I have to do is talk to my colleagues, because the biggest issue we have with Tucker Carlson is people remember the Tucker Carlson of 5 years ago. That's what makes him so dangerous.
K-File's Andrew Kaczynski is now out front. And Andrew, I mean, this is all fascinating. And I sort of saw it percolating on X a little while ago, and it just got bigger. And you know, when you can start to tell something is metastasizing in the social media world, and it appeared to be. So you've been talking to a lot of people within the Heritage Foundation. What are they saying?
That's right, Aaron. So the staff that we talked to told us the Heritage Foundation is in open revolt over the president's defense of Carlson. One senior staffer told us it was a, quote, absolute shit show inside the organization, saying that Roberts had, quote, lost control over the organization. He said there's an open rebellion, and this really all came to a head yesterday, where they had this all-hands meeting. This, like you said, this was kind of going around social media, where Roberts publicly apologized. According to a recording we obtained, Roberts told employees, quote, I made a mistake. I let you down. I let this institution down. I'm sorry, period, full stop. But he also made clear he has no plans to resign. Now, we also obtained messages between senior Heritage staff earlier in the week where they were discussing this situation. I want people to look at some of these messages that we looked at. One of them described the workplace as, quote, flailing and in damage control. Another said, this makes me sad and mad, in a comment to another top level staffer. One senior staffer reposted a colleague saying, this crap is really hurting Heritage, and added, as it should. Another wrote, I'm disgusted by this, and I don't understand how this premeditated and orchestrated response that's talking about the initial Roberts video could come out of one of the biggest think tanks in the world. The source who provided this to us basically said they didn't want these names to be identified for fear of retaliation. And Aaron, this backlash is not just limited to the staff of Heritage, it's also reaching the foundation's donors. One major donor whose organization contributes more than $500,000 annually to Heritage Foundation told us that they had totally lost faith in Roberts. You can see their quote right there. They said, I'm waiting to see how things play out, but if Kevin remains as president, we will not be giving to Heritage. Likewise, the Zionist Organization of America, that's actually the oldest pro-Israel group in the United States, announced that it was withdrawing from Heritage's initiative on anti-Semitism unless Roberts publicly apologized and retract his praise for Carlson. Now, current and former staff that we spoke to, they really say this is part of an identity crisis that's at Heritage. It's pitting the longtime policy experts, people who have been there for years, versus this newer crop of Roberts, of operatives that actually came in under Roberts in 2021.
I mean, it's amazing. Heritage used to be, okay, you would go there for economic papers and you go, for traditional, more conservative, small government Right now, it's become this very, very different thing, Project 2025 and on, right? Much more social, much bigger. I mean, it's different.
More populist.
It,
right?
more
Yeah.
right, and so it is a total brand shift. I mean, they're right about that. It all started with Tucker Carlson's interview with Nick Fuentes, so this current brouhaha, right? When for people who may not know him, you know, we put on the adjectives to describe him generally, but when they say what does that mean, what makes Fuentes so controversial?
Well, yes, Aaron, that's right. And he is a white nationalist. He is a Holocaust denier. He has spent years spreading racist, anti-Semitic, misogynistic rhetoric online. Last fall, he actually said he didn't vote for Donald Trump because Donald Trump didn't go far enough in pushing an America First agenda that matched his own white nationalist views. He said things like he wants to return to the Middle Ages, to a time when women couldn't vote, when contraception and fornication were banned. He said things like, quote, I think the Holocaust is exaggerated, quote, Hitler is awesome, and quote, that a lot of women want to be raped. Those are all literally things he said. He even praised the Taliban's takeover of Afghanistan, celebrating that the group would, quote, ban abortions, vaccines, and gay marriage. And in this interview with Carlson, he even expressed admiration for Joseph Stalin, dictator of Soviet Union. Now, Fuentes has also made clear that he wants this kind of turmoil in the GOP. On his show, he said, quote, we want disruption, we want chaos, we want infighting. So when Carlson hosted Fuentes for this largely friendly conversation, he did not challenge him on a ton of that stuff. It set off that outrage on the right that's not only tearing through Heritage Foundation, but through much of the conservative movement. Aaron, we did reach out to Carlson, Roberts, Heritage. We asked about all of this. We didn't hear back from anybody, so it's going to be interesting to see how this continues to play out on the right, because as you said, it's really just bubbling up even more.
It's just incredible.
Ben Shapiro writes, quote, if Republicans cower before Nazi apologists and their popularizers, the GOP will lose and deserve to, unquote. And here now is Ben Shapiro, co-founder of the Daily Wire. Ben, what was your reaction not only to Kevin Roberts' apology, but also just how he's handled all of this?
Well, I mean, I think that Kevin Roberts, I know Kevin. I think Kevin is a good man. I think that Kevin really screwed things up last week when he decided to inject himself into this controversy with his vociferous defense that contained some rather charged language. I think he's doing the right thing by pointing out the obvious, which is that if somebody glosses Nazis on the air, that person probably should not be associated with a conservative think tank, and that everyone should have a duty to say that that is a bad thing to do. So I'm grateful to Kevin for doing that. I think it's a very good thing that he did that. The real issue here is I think that Tucker Carlson's morphing from, I would say, a very edgy right-wing political figure on Fox News, but certainly within the mainstream, into a conspiracist, a person who ideologically launders anti-Semitism, who ideologically launders all sorts of anti-Americanism on his show, and then airs it for the public to hear with interviews like the ones he did with Nick Fuentes, which was essentially a massage of Nick Fuentes. You know, I think that took a lot of people by surprise, probably including Kevin.
The Washington Free Beacon obtained and posted video of yesterday's Heritage Foundation staff meeting where Roberts apologized for how he's handled Tucker's conversation with Nick Fuentes. Here's part of what Roberts had to say.
I didn't know much about this Fuentes guy. I still don't, which underscores the mistake. I can tell you with a clear conscience and not making any excuses that those were my intentions, to fix all of that. And obviously I didn't. I made them worse.
We reached out to the Heritage Foundation for comment about the video. We were referred to Kevin Roberts' social media post from yesterday. What's your reaction? And let me just note that Nick Fuentes has been fairly notorious for years now, including when he dined with President Trump at Mar-a-Lago.
I mean, I think that's true, but I think that really in order to experience the full wonders of the Nick Fuentes catalog, you really do have to spend some time going through the receipts. I did that earlier this week on my show. And the truth is that most people don't watch politics all that granularly. Even people who are in politics don't spend a lot of time on sort of the fringe edgelord right, the way that Fuentes is. And so the sort of mainstreaming, the popularization and normalization of Fuentes by Carlson is significantly more important than just Fuentes' existence, obviously. It was a seminal moment, I think, when it comes to the right's decision as to whether Tucker himself is a source of truth or whether he is a destructive force inside conservatism.
So one of the things you've noted is that it isn't so much, your problem isn't so much that Tucker Carlson had Fuentes on his show, but that he didn't push back at all on the neo-Nazi, anti-Semitic, pro-Joseph Stalin rhetoric, et cetera. I just wonder, Last week at a Turning Point event, Vice President J.D. Vance was asked by a student about an anti-Semitic falsehood, this crazy notion that Judaism openly supports the persecution of Christians. It's not true. But J.D. Vance was asked about it. Instead of pushing back or correcting the questioner, he said this.
There are some significant theological disagreements between Christians and Jews. My attitude is, let's have those conversations. Let's have those disagreements when we have them. But if there are shared areas of interest, we ought to be willing to do that too.
What did you think of that?
You know, obviously in a vacuum, I think that answer is fine. I think it's a response to the question, which was asked, as you say, in a tremendously anti-Semitic way, the idea that Jews are persecutors of Christians is an absurd contention. Obviously, I would have preferred more from the vice president, but I think the broader problem here is, again, that you have an enormous number of young people who are engaging with true white supremacist, anti-Jew content and are taken in by it, and there do need to be more voices pushing back on that.
Ben Shapiro, we thank you for your voice. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.